31-3 or 6 to them. And I'm about to go back out. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna try to go for 2. He's like, nah, you're done. I'm like, just oh, okay. I started taking my stuff off. He's like, nah, you still gotta play defense. But let Cook and Clyde and Terrell Jones and Clinkscale get some run.
You have that long layoff, so you have your first taste as the starter, getting that game action, and then you guys go over to East, beat them. I believe it was like was it 12-6 or so with East.
Like
yeah. All right, but you have 100-yard game, so you're kind of showing flashes of what you're capable of. You have another capable back in a young John Cook that's helping you out and giving you some relief. I think Pat Grossen had decided not to continue playing, so you lose some veteran ability there.
Definitely.
But looking at some of the information, you're starting to put it together and make the best of what could have potentially been a bad situation. 5 weeks is a long time to be off in terms of football, because you essentially lose everything that you worked for over the off season in preseason camp. But you just have to get back in it and make the best of it, and you certainly are doing that. So you have a good game against Niles. You have a connection to that city, and your father and your brothers. So you rush for 165 yards, 3 touchdowns, and get pulled early. So what's the motivation behind going over in the Bo Ryan Stadium and doing your thing in front of your family?
Well, if you remember, especially your senior year, I was Rich Lemon for you guys for scout team, and Rich Lemon did everything for Niles. Look, I've met him a couple times. I'm like, man, I used to hate you, dog, because they have me all over the field, and I'm getting waxed because we setting up to play you when we play you. Going into Bo Ryan Stadium, even your senior year, it was always cool because I'm like, my brothers are over there, and they're gonna get to see me play. My dad gonna get to see me play. My stepmom's gonna get to see me play. But my senior year is like, oh yeah, I'm a kick returner. I'm starting. Adding to that backfield mix, Kimani Berry is doing what you used to do. Receiver, quarterback, running back if he need to. He's filling in everywhere. Me and Kimani had made a deal. I'm like, look, I'm going to ask coach to let me throw you a pass. So, JV, we running 27 pass.
Yeah.
So we convinced Burtis to go single back. Kimani's the single, and we got trips on this side. And he's like, go ahead, you can throw the pass. I'm like, yes. I'm a rush for a touchdown. I'm a throw for a touchdown. This is my mind. We get the pass. I get the pitch, and I see Kimani, and I see their safety come over and decleat him. Like his ear pad done popped out, and I'm like, I got to run in. I'll go help Kimani up. He's like, hey, man, thanks for looking out for me. But that dude cheated, man, But it was just great to go there and experience it. I score a 65-yard touchdown, and I see my little brothers running behind the end zone to meet me to where I'm going, and they're going crazy. Look, I give them 5, and go back. And Coach Burson, I'm like, this, them kids. I'm like, yeah, they're my brothers. It's like, oh, okay, because like you're not allowed to. Well, back then you weren't allowed to celebrate for Burtis. Cabbage Patch or dancing. Nah, you go ahead and sit on the bench.
It's gutter. It's gutter.
Yeah, it's gutter. But he allowed me that because these are my little brothers. He's like, oh, okay. I see it in his face still, like, oh, okay, he let it go. But I get 165, and by the third quarter, we're up, 30 something, 31. I want to say it's like 31 because we ended up kicking a field goal later. It's like 31-3 or 6 to them. And I'm about to go back out. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna try to go for 2. He's like, nah, you're done. I'm like, this. Oh, okay. I started taking my stuff off. He's like, nah. You still gotta play defense, but let Cook and Clyde and Terrell Jones and Clinkscale get some run. I'm like, okay. I'm kind of deflated by this. Like, come on, coach, let me go crazy here. But it was cool, and the defense we had a lot of turnovers that game. And again, we're coming together more and more. Like you said, Dallas, it's usually that second, third week that your growth is. But, we didn't play, 2-3 games now. We beat East, lost to Boardman, and beat Rand. We're coming together, and it's looking good. And it felt good. We're starting to win again. And we already know we're not going to the playoffs, which is unfortunate. But we decided. Once you lost those 2 games, it was done. Once we didn't play Campbell and Struthers.
Was that a state thing?
Yes.
Or was that – oh, okay.
We just didn't have enough games, to get points and all that other stuff. You were done. That's when if you lost 1 game, you might not make the playoffs.
Well, isn't it ironic? The playoffs just ended now, and they got 16 teams in.
Yes.
16.
Yes.
And I'm not saying there shouldn't be, but my point is, I think probably at your time there were 4.
That's it. From a region. That's it.
Yeah. And to even get in a dance was a huge accomplishment. Yeah.
And then whoever you lost to, like, Fitch made the playoffs that year, and so did Boardman. Let's say we wouldn't have lost those 2 games with Camel and Struthers. Maybe we get in the playoffs. Maybe not. You don't know, but they both had good records. The only team that had a losing record that besides the city teams, Niles was like 5-5 that year. Howland was like 6-4. Orville was 7-3 or something like that. So we still had good computer numbers. We just didn't have enough games. Mm-hmm. And that right there made our city games, especially knowing that Wilson was going to be our last city game, because at first they were way in the front, but the strike lost it. So we put them at last. We knew the rest of our games was like, man, just have fun and let's try to win. And Coach Burtison, Coach Pope, and Coach Mick and all them made it a priority to, once we got to a certain points level, all the young guys is going in. We got to get them action to get them ready for next year. I didn't understand that then, but now I could say, oh, that's what you were doing. You were getting them dudes some action because you didn't do it with us. You didn't want to go through that again. But he started making sure all the underclassmen got some time in. And as the games went on and we got up big, like, hey, you get the starters are out. Second team guys, hey, get your time in. And I didn't have a problem. See, again, I didn't have a problem with it. Like, we winning. I had a good game. Shoot, I got extra tackles. And that's how it ended up being. No problems at all. But I love playing at Bo Ryan. And truly, I know they got their home stadium at the Rand, stadium and all that now, but I didn't mind going to other people's fields and waxing them. I enjoyed that so much, to beat Boardman, Fitch, or Howland, or wherever we went to go play, because it's just snatch your heart out, man. Snatch your heart out. You can't do nothing. And then their fans start cheering us like, man, they good. They're good. I liked it that. I really did.
Well, that was always, and that was always kind of a rallying point, right? Mm-hmm. That was always something that that everybody bought into. And mm-hmm. Ron, on the other podcast, he just made the comment the other day. He's like, in 20 years, I never had a real home game. Nope. Not one. Mm-mm. And you think about that, and probably except for a handful of other city teams, that case is the same thing.
I mean, even when we would play South at South, that's their look. We got the home jerseys on, but this is South home field. Look, we gonna. Look, I think we beat them 40 something to 7 that year, Ron. That they last year.
Yeah,
we coming over here waxing y'all on y'all own field. What? What? And then when we would play at YSU, yeah, you're the home team, but man, this YSU. And even my 9th grade year when we were playing Mooney and Urson at YSU, you're like, it's really not our field. That's their field. Even though we played games on there, that's their field. But when you go to Boardman, oh yeah, watch this. Going to Fitch, howling, and they be talking stuff to you, I'm gonna beat you, and then the dudes on the field, hitting you in the nuts and doing little dirty stuff. You're like, man, I'm about to break on you, and there's nothing you can do about it. We're gonna run the same play, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's gonna be another back come in. He's gonna run the same play. There's nothing you can do about it.
So you end up being the Frank SINKWICH Award winner for the city, which is the offensive MVP.
Mm-hmm.
You rush for 900 plus yards, 13 touchdowns. So as that high school season and that career wraps up, for an 8-game season, you have really great stats. You have good film that would get the attention of some colleges. What were your options, after that season in terms of going on to the next level?
Ohio Northern was coming real heavy. Geneva College, of course, Teal and Hiram, and I didn't get Mountain Union. My GPA wasn't that good, but they were coming around, and I give Coach Burtis that respect, because he was sending them to me like, yeah, he doesn't have all these years of film, but he got a little film from junior year, and you see what he did once he became the starter. And junior colleges were coming around. Joliet Junior College was the big one that was at myself, Kimani Berry, and Jason Ferguson. Ohio Northern was at me, Dom Conti, Ferguson, Davila, Geneva. The Tornadoes right over there in Pennsylvania. They were after me and Dom real heavy. And Geneva wanted to pair me with, I can't remember the running back from Sharon's name, but me and him, they wanted me and him to be the running backs at Geneva. But my mind was like, man, Sylvester went to Toledo. Man, I could go to Toledo. I can go to a bigger school than what was coming. And that's a little arrogance on my part, not understanding, you don't have enough film for them to be like, hey, we want you. My GPA was like a 2.8. I cut a 22 or 23 on the ACT. So I was good enough that if I needed to go to school, I could. But then a man named Raymond Carter, who went to Ursuline, all his boys went to Ursuline and everything, he had gave me a couple propositions during my time at Chaney. I could have went to a private school up in Michigan named, I want to say it's St. Mary's. His son went there, Dwayne Carter, who ended up going to Ohio State and being a DB for John Cooper and everything. He came at me with a proposition. He was like, hey, you ever thought about going to military? I'm like, sure. I got 2 brothers in the Navy and all this. He was like, well, they got a program that you can go play football for them. And I'm like, really? All right. Hey, I'm with it. He's like, send me your transcripts, sent the transcripts. And this is when Mr. Trafficant was still the congressman. They set me up in a program called NAPS, which is Naval Academy Preparatory School up in Newport, Rhode Island. And NAPS is set up for you to become more proficient at being a student and getting your grade point average up and all these other things. but there's a 6-year commitment for if you do naps. You know, it ain't just, hey, I'm going to school. It's like, hey, you're going to the military too. Oh, okay, cool. That sounded way more better. Going to Naval Academy, you know, I'm thinking David Robinson, Napoleon McAllister, you know, all these football players, you know, the Admiral. This is the Admiral time frame. I'm like, man, I could do that too. I go to naps. I chose naps instead of going to Joliet or walking on at YSU, because Mr. Trussell did offer that. Or even going to Geneva. Geneva, they'd have paid for everything, but I'm like, this is bigger. Yeah, I'm gonna do this, and that's what I chose. And I did it for a semester. I was okay, but there's, you know, as in life, sometimes the Youngstown mentality can get you in trouble, and I hadn't smoothed those edges out, and someone said something I didn't agree with, and I hauled off and socked them in the mouth, and I'm up out of naps. But I did rush for like 300-400 yards as a spot kick returner, as a spot running back for them, and I know I had a chance, but you know, I wasn't ready for that full transition to military life, to where you can't just lash out if you don't agree with what someone said, even if they was wrong. You know, you can't react that way. As they say, that's unbecoming of an officer and things like that. So my time there was short.
So then, you know, you transition and join into the U.S. Navy. I believe you said this is 1998?
Not 95.
95. Okay.
Yeah. You know,
So
I did a semester. That was it. Transitioning, I guess you could say transitioning. But remember, I already signed the contract. Now it's just a matter of them deciding what enlisted rank I qualify for. I cut a 53 on the ASVAB, and that's like a SAT, ACT type test. Anything above a 50, they're like, oh yeah, you good. You can pick a lot of different jobs. But again, my actions that got me put out of naps, which was a fight, you know, it restricts where you can go. So they end up sending me, look, they was like, man, you can be a cook. I'm like, a cook? I ain't never cooked a day in my life. I mean, I worked at McDonald's, but I ain't never cooked anything. So they sent me to cook school out in San Diego. And I'm like, oh, okay, cook school kind of cool. There's a lot of girls in cook school. Hey, and I'm in sunny San Diego. I don't care. I'm good. I'm not understanding. Oh, no, you're not here for the rest of your career. You're just here for school. We can send you anywhere else after that. I'm like, but I was in San Diego and I loved it, man. You know, this is the time in the military where, you know, Tijuana, Mexico's there. You going to Tijuana. Oh, you can't drink in the States, but you go to Tijuana and club all night, as long as you back to school in time. So, you know, I went to cook school. I did all right there. And then it was time to pick orders. And I'm like, I want to stay in San Diego. They were like, we don't got it. So my choice was Virginia. And everybody's like, don't ever go to Virginia. That's the worst military place ever. So I'm like, I'm not going to Virginia. Then they offered Japan. And I'm like, I don't know. And then they offered me Oakland. I was like, I'll go to Oakland. I like Too Short. I like E40, you know. I'm not thinking about the military. I'm thinking what I'm going to enjoy there. So they sent me to Oakland. And I'll just say, being stationed in Oakland and San Francisco, which is, you know, a bridge away, I'm like, oh, that was the best thing for me. And Oakland had a lot of a Youngstown feel to it, in that the weather was the same besides the snow, but it get cold up there on that bay. The music, you know, a lot of funk music, a lot of rap music, a lot of live band stuff. And this is the year the Raiders came back to Oakland, And if you're in the military, you get free tickets. I'm like, oh, I'm at the A's game, the Warriors game when they drafted Joe Smith. I'm at the Raiders when they come back. I'm just enjoying being stationed up there, playing flag football, and just trying to make my way through this. From when I went to Oakland until 1999, I never came back to Youngstown. At no time in between there, I never came back because it was fun.
Now, you're expanding your worldview, kind of maturing as you're gaining more years in the military, a little bit more responsibility. You ultimately end up in Japan.
Yes.
Serving.
Yes.
And then you get a chance to play football over there for Yokosuka Seahawks.
Seahawks. Yes, the Yokosuka Seahawks. So, again, and I'm in Oakland. The ship I was on, it's called decommission. They shut it down, and they send me to a new ship in San Diego. I'm in San Diego a year and a half or so, and they're like, hey, we're going to Japan. And at this time, I'm like, I've known a couple people that were stationed in Japan. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go with y'all. I go to Japan. Now, I don't know they play full contact football, but we get there August 7th, 1998. And I'm seeing people in pads. I'm like, ooh, they got a high school? I'm thinking it's the base high school or something. But then the dudes taking off the helmets, these is old dudes. They got gray hair and dudes got beards and everything. So you have the Yokosuka Seahawks, which is 30 and under team. And then you have the Yokosuka Greyhawks, which is 30 and over. I'm like, oh, they got football. I'm just getting stationed here. Hey, I'm like, hey, I want to play. Shoot, they let me sign up. And, I played like the last month and a half of the season. I'm like, oh, man, I'm in love. I get to do what I love again. And I get to play. The Greyhawks don't have enough people, so sometimes they would let me play with them. So I'm playing, sometimes 2 games a week, with the young guys and then with the older guys. I'm like, oh, this is it right here. And for the next 3 years, hey, number 22 is back in Japan, and we're playing company teams, be it Honda, Kawasaki, Asahi Beer, any company you could think of that has Japanese products. They have a company team. And you're playing in Yokohama Bay Stadium. You're playing in a Tokyo Dome sometime. All the military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, everybody has teams over there. And like the guy was on my team. His name was Keith Spencer. He came from Pitt. He played at Pitt. And this is Pitt 93, 94 Pitt. They're good. He blew out his knee at Pitt. And, as you found out, scholarship stuff, they don't have to renew you, and they didn't renew him, so he joined the military, and he's in Japan. And Spencer is all of 6'7", 250, just a hulking dude, but he playing on the base team with us, and it was fun. It was fun watching this dude destroy people. There was an Air Force team. They had a dude, I can't remember his name, but he played for the Jaguars. He was on one of the first Jaguar expansion teams, blew out his knee, didn't have nothing going on, and joined the Air Force as an officer. You're like, man. So you were getting good competition. And then when you play the Japanese teams, that was the most surprising thing. You're like, man, these dudes ain't going to be able to handle us. They were the most fundamentally sound teams I've ever played against in my life. So they have American coaches, and they're allowed like 5 American players per team or something like that. They were just so fundamentally sound, but a lot of times our athleticism would beat them. But I get to play the Japanese all-star team. This is the best players off of each team. And now they've never beaten an American team. And they've been playing football against us since the 50s, I want to say. This Japanese team practiced 6 months to play us in Yokohama Bay Stadium. Yokohama Bay Stars is like a really good baseball team over there, and they got a stadium, and the game was supposed to be tape delayed for the next week. They got up on us 35-0 at halftime, and we're like, like what happened? Look, it went national, like, breaking news, U.S. team losing. Da, da, da. It was 75-35.
No.
They, look, Ron, okay, as a DB, you understand this. DB position on a fade route is in his lap, hand going through the hand, through the reception. He would throw a fade out of bounds and out of bounds. Boom, boom. And we couldn't stop it. We could not stop it. They run a trap. Oh, man, he right there. Like, kick him out, cutting up. You like. Now, remember, we got a lot of older gentlemen. We got civilians whose wives are in the military, but they play football. We wasn't ready for that.
It's almost like being on strike again, huh?
Yes. I would say that, but it was worse because after the game, they're crying and wanting to take pictures with you. Like, you get your ass off me, you know. You know, and it was big news for them, man. And look, all I can say is they are so fundamentally sound. Now, the next week when we get back to playing the regular Japanese team, we like, okay, let's get some payback, you know. But you know, I did that for them 3 years, 98, 99, 2000, and it was fun. 2000, I transitioned to being like a player coach, you know, helping coach the offense, being an offense coordinator, calling plays. But it was a fun time, and I loved it. It reminded me of why I love the game of football. And they took me off the boat to play when you're playing, and the month was like from March to like early October. You're playing all these games. You're playing games when they open the whole base to the whole Japanese community, and it's called Friendship Day. They're allowed to come watch the friendship game. They're allowed to shop on base, and that's normally never allowed. But this day, the football game was the centerpiece of Friendship Day, you know, and you're playing Marine teams from Okinawa. You're playing Army teams from Korea. You're traveling. So this was like even more so up my alley of I get to travel and play football. Oh, this for me. This is for me. But you know, as age starts catching up and little nicks and injuries, like let me be a coach. I think I'll be better at coaching, and that's what I transitioned to. Look, them 2 years was good, but that third year it was like, oh man, my thighs is not coming back from them hits, and that was it, you know. And I still kept in touch with a lot of people that played. Look, right now, if you look it up, the Yokosuka Seahawks, they still have a team playing. And the base sponsors this. The base sponsors you to play this. And you can't beat it. You really can't beat it. And a lot of guys, that's their last time suiting up. So this One More Down series, you know, mine didn't end after high school. It didn't end after NAPS, which I thought that was it. I'll never play again. I'm just going to be a flag guy forever. And to get over there and play again, man, it brought tears to my eyes. Like, yes. And you know, over there, you know, they get to know you. The Japanese people in the community get to know you and to know you're a football player, a football star, or you know, and you're not even a star, but to them, you're like, Koko Gaijin superstar. I see your name in paper. You like, yeah, that was me, but you know, they're happy you're their neighbor. So it had a lot of good benefits, and it was fun. I will say that it was fun. So if you go to military, anybody else watching this, and you're looking to play football, you got to go to Japan or you got to go to Germany and enjoy yourself. But make sure you're working out over there so your body don't get as beat up as it does when you're only just coming there to play the games.
That's that, man. You know, it's a tremendous experience because like you said, you have an opportunity post high school. It doesn't go the way that you initially planned it out. You're moving on to that next phase of life, and then you get a second chance to do that and still, continue your military career. I think it's fantastic that you put in a full 21 years, get to retire at a young age, and then have all those memories, because some guys that we played with or played against, they had the talent,
Yes.
they had the ability, but they just didn't have that next opportunity post high school. So I think, in talking to some of the figures that we've talked about, there's variations of that resolution when it comes to your career and your satisfaction with it. And sometimes people don't get to end on that good note where they answer all those questions in their head about what could I have been, would I have been good enough to play here, here, here. But there is something that's satisfying about getting that final answer and getting to exhaust all of that, that determination and that drive to be whatever level of football player you thought you were going to be when you first start playing the game. Not everyone gets that. So that's special that you get to have that experience and get to see football in a different light in a different part of the world.
It definitely is. Determination, was it lack of discipline that someone didn't go to the next level or get a chance to go to the next level? I don't know. I just know I always, everybody wants to go to NFL when you're a kid. I want to be the next Barry Sanders, or my favorite running back was Emmitt Smith. That's why 22 was always my number. I had a Florida Gators pullover, that was my guy. I'm thinking I'm gonna be the next Emmitt Smith, but you're not understanding all the extra work that that you have to put in to get to that level. And going to the military, I'm not gonna say it saved my life, but Youngstown at that time was dangerous. And you know this, Ron, and you know this too, Dallas. It was dangerous, and we have lost so many friends. Getting out of here and being able to play football for the military was just a bonus. It was a bonus. I would love to say that the military was always good for me, or great. And no, there was times that was tough, but I came from a football program that was like, man, if you grind, you'll get through this. I took that into the military. If you grind, you're gonna get through this. And so this the pasture for meadows and flowers where you can just frolic and live a good life. In those 21 years, there were a lot of deployments. I've been a lot of places, mostly Asia, Australia, Asia, all this type of stuff. But the worldview it gave me coming from our valley, I was already experienced in, we had Palestinians, we had Arabs, we had Italians, we had Greeks in the area, but there's not a lot of Asian people in the valley. She was going to Two Guys to buy some clothes, and that was the Koreans. It just opened my eyes to how big this world is and how special football is to be in Japan. And they're playing this elementary, little league, but for football to make it worldwide like that and be accepted over there, baseball is bigger, but for football to have a niche over there and be accepted, man, I'm like, this, you can't beat this. And I loved every minute of it. If I could, I would go back and play. I'll say my most memorable, the things I remember the most about football that I enjoyed: the opportunity to play in Yokohama Bay Stadium and the Tokyo Dome, because I'm a wrestling fan. So getting to see, this is where Antonio Inoki wrestled, him and Muhammad Ali were kickboxing over here, or Andre the Giant was here. I'm like, I'm in the Tokyo Dome. This is great. And then if we go back further for high school, my biggest memory is playing the All-Star game at YSU, and you're playing against everybody in the area, all Northeast Ohio. I want to say that was it. You're playing against everybody in Northeast Ohio, and the stands are packed. But this is the day OJ is going on the Bronco run. That's my most memorable memory. Like this, not nothing in the game, just like everybody's like, you can hear them talking about OJ in the stands like this. OJ, what the heck he done did, And then get home to see this dude is on the run. You're like this, man, you just messed up my day. This was my day. I had a good game, but OJ, that's OJ's day, the Knicks and all that though. But I had a good time, and that 21 years in the military, there's a lot of I met a lot of Youngstown people in the military. Other day, Ron, we were talking about Boo Boo and Butt Butt. Their uncle was on my ship, man. He was on my ship. Bill Corbin's sister was on my ship. I'm like,
right.
This
teaches you that the world isn't as big as you think it is, right?
And look, I walk out one day with a CHS lifting shirt on, and she was like, CHS, where you from? I'm like, I'm from Youngstown. She was like, what school you go to? I'm like, I went to Chaney. She's like, what year did you graduate? I was like, I just graduated, this year. She's like, I graduated in 88. She's like, my brother. I'm like, who your brother? Bill Corbin. I'm like, for real? I'm like, Bill, Ron, Shad, all these people. She's like, yeah. So, I got to mingle with a lot of Youngstown people, Youngstown and Warren people that they were older than me, but they're from the area. I went on to become a recruiter, and his name is Anthony Ward. He played at South. He made All City. I ended up recruiting his son in the military. Like, I'm looking at him like, man, I know this guy, but I'm not going to push it. And I saw a Penguins hat, a YSU hat, just a Y hat. And I'm like, I'm going to ask him about that after I get done interviewing his son. Me and him start talking, and he was like, yeah, I'm from Youngstown. I'm like, for real? I'm like, I'm from Youngstown. And he's like, yeah, I went to South. I graduated, I want to say it's 83, 84 time frame. But, he made All City at South. And I'm still friends with him and his son 12 years later. But that was our Youngstown connection in the military. And we're in Virginia, 8 hours away. And I had a good time, and I loved it. And watching you guys bring up the Once a Cowboy and now this One More Down podcast, it allows a lot of information to get out about Youngstown that the younger generation just don't know. My superstars growing up were James Stanford, Tony Tellington from South, Ray Isaac. I remember going to them Thursday night games and it being sold out. Because back then we didn't play on Friday. We always played Thursday night. East and South, that playoff game, I'm there. I'm in 5th grade. Like, this is amazing. And, Wilson and Chaney, let's be real, they weren't the teams that I was interested in. But I remember going to the Y, seeing Paul Lamonji and Chris Samarone down in that old Y dungeon of a weight room, big, huge dudes. And I'm like, man, Chaney got some big wrestler type dudes. So these were, these little introductions, but these guys were my superstars at these other high schools, because that's what we had. And YSU wasn't good at the time. This was right before Trussell took over and Trenton Lakes came and Tamron Smith, and he's starting recruiting from the city. The high school guys were my superstars, and they played football with you in the neighborhood. Because on the east side, if you wanted to play, you had to play with the big kids. There was no, I'm just going to take my ball and me and the little kids. They was like, nah, give me they'd take your ball and then be like, is you playing with us or not?
Yeah, I think that's a Youngstown staple. You just get introduced by getting slammed on your head, and you got to figure out in that moment, do you want to continue or not?
And look, and I was the kid. I wanted more. As I said, I was a lineman, but on defense, I'm coming to light you up. And I was a little kid. And, you know, as I said, James Stanford, who made All City and went on to YSU, you know, he threw the ball so hard at you, but this is how you're going to learn to catch with your hands, teaching you this stuff. And we're young. We're 4th, 5th grade. You better learn to catch with your hands or you're going to tear your chest up. And going to those Thursday night games, watching Tony Tellington and them at South, watching Ray Isaac at Rand. Look, oh boy that you posted from Wilson. Now I'm like, oh, okay, that's who that was, but I never knew who he was. But I always thought he looked good with his towel hanging out and the wristbands, you know. But Tony Tellington, I remember that number 5. I'm like, that dude looks so good in that uniform. I want to wear number 5.
So, in keeping with you know, our theme and the title, and you even mentioned it. If you had one more down, what would it be?
Team I want to play, or where we at?
It's your down, wherever, whenever, with whoever.
Warren Harding, playing at Warren Harding, playing Buckle again, man. That was fun. It was a snow game, but that was the epitome of a team win, and I loved it. I loved it. You know, we were having good communication. Even though it wasn't my game, like, oh, I did so many yards, but that was such a good game, and it was the first playoff win for us. Oh man, those the boosters and the people on the west side still talk about that first win because it was such a monumental experience coming together. You know, everything was just hitting right. Everything was just hitting right. I'd love to do that again. I mean, it wasn't, you know, and plus I got to play at Warren Harding. That you know, that was the stadium that you wanted to play at. I got to play at Warren G. Harding. Paul Warfield played on this field, you know. The Browner brothers all played on this field. You know, I had football cards of Ross and Joey Browner and Paul Warfield from being a kid. They got to play on this field. I got to finally play on this field. That was my favorite game. It's not my best memory for me as an individual, but as a team, that was the best. That was the funnest game I ever had in my life. It was snowy. We showed how to play together as a team, and we beat a athletically superior team. And normally we're way more athletic than anybody we played, but we put it on them fools. We really did. And even the touchdowns they scored, it was like, man, we gave one up. We gave one up. But that would be my one more down, man.